Swedish Mystery. February 1986 was a very cold month in Scandinavia. In Copenhagen, the city's lakes were frozen over, and ice skating replaced boating. In Norway, Oslo experienced its coldest month of the year. Stockholm, too, was freezing, with temperatures far below zero. The 28th of February was another chilly evening in the Swedish capital. On an impulse, the Swedish Prime Minister and his wife decided to go to the movies. Even though it was a last-minute decision, there are always seats available for a Prime Minister. Palme and his wife Lisbeth set off towards the Grand Cinema for the 9 o'clock screening. They had no idea that this was to be their last evening together. As the couple walked home, a mysterious figure approached them from the shadows. Prime Minister Palme was shot and killed. His wife was slightly injured by a second shot. The gunman escaped through a dark alley and vanished into the night. We pick up the story exactly 40 years later. Mattias Kressmark has agreed to take the School Times on a private tour of the last footsteps of the famous Swedish statesman. A delayed train from Malmö means we arrive late at Stockholm Central Station. But Mattias is kind enough to wait while we make a mad dash across the city. Our rendezvous point is a small bistro bar on the street called Sveavägen. The bistro is on the opposite side of the street from the Grand Cinema. The bistro is quite noisy, so recording is difficult. While we adjust our equipment for the tour, we put a few questions to Mattias, who, we discover, speaks excellent English.
Hello, Mattias. We're going on the Palme tour this evening. Some of our listeners might never have heard of Olof Palme. Who was he?
He was the Swedish Prime Minister, and he was quite popular but also very controversial. He left no one untouched, you can say. You either liked him or you hated him.
Were these feelings strong?
Yeah, they were strong. So in Sweden, we actually have some sort of a Palme hatred. And they blame all the evils in society on him. So whatever happened, if the mail was late or if the trash didn't get picked up, people were saying it's that effing Palme's fault.
Olof Palme became Swedish Prime Minister for the first time in 1969. He held office until 1976. He was re-elected again in 1982 and in 1985. But Palme was more than a Prime Minister. He was an international statesman. He had joined public protests against the US war in Vietnam and spoke out against apartheid in South Africa. He also added his voice in support of the Palestinian people, condemning Israel's disrespect for the United Nations. The fact that Sweden was a neutral country meant that he was respected and trusted as a peacemaker. He was viewed as an honest mediator in international conflicts. Returning to the noisy bistro, we ask Mattias about his Palme tour and how long he's been guiding people in the final footsteps of the late Swedish Prime Minister.
I've been doing it basically since 2020. That's when the police shut down the investigation of the case. After that, a lot of people got interested even more in the case, actually. So I did this tour for my friends a couple of times, and then, by word of mouth, other people heard about it, and I took them too. And I now have a little script that I follow, a few pictures I can show, so you will get to experience it all.
The investigation into this murder lasted decades.
Yes, 34 years.
Did the police bungle it, or did the assassin cover his tracks too well?
Hard to answer, I must say. You can say there's like two groups of people. Either the ones that think the murder was a conspiracy, that several people conspired and got together and did it, or the ones that think it was a lone killer, so someone just by chance happened to see him on the street and killed him. I mean, that's also the beauty of this murder. No one can say for sure.
It's a real whodunit.
In 2020, investigators identified a man who was by then dead as the likely assassin. This was announced at a public press conference. It brought the decades-long search for the assassin to an end. That's what they hoped for, at least. Many Swedes still have doubts about the official story regarding the murder. We put a few final questions to our guide Mattias before setting off on the tour.
Is there any skepticism in Sweden? Or do people just accept now that Skandia man,
Stig
Engström, that he was a lone assassin?
Definitely, there's a lot of skepticism. They made a poll with thousands of people after that solution with Stig Engström was published, and it ended up with 8 out of 10 Swedes do not believe it was Stig Engström. So I think it's fairly easy to prove that he was on the spot after the murder happened.
Why is he called Skandia man?
He worked at the insurance company Skandia, right there at the same block as the murder happened. So he came out from work and went to the subway and then ended up in this whole scenario. And I think he was the witness that he claims to be. So he came there, he saw everything, he talked to people there, and then he went back to Skandia again and talked to the security personnel there. What many Swedes turned against was that the prosecutor, when presenting this at the press conference, he talked the way you do in a trial. So he talked in the same way, stating why he believed that he was the killer. At the same time, he's saying, you know, we can't really determine he's the killer, but since he's so important, if he were alive, we must take him in again and interrogate him again.
Mattias, so I know you've been here a while now. If you want to get going...
Exactly, it's cool.
The Last Footsteps of Olof Palme, Part 1. In last month's issue, we described our journey to Stockholm to meet up with Mattias Kressmark. The purpose of our journey was to retrace the route Prime Minister Olof Palme and his wife Lisbeth took after leaving the Grand Cinema on the 28th of February 1986. Palme was recognised as one of the great international statesmen of the late 20th century. His public murder sent shockwaves around the world. Mattias leads us to the start of our Palme tour. We begin at the Grand Cinema at 45 Sveavägen in the Norrmalm district of central Stockholm.
Looks like one of those old cinemas.
Yes, those doors you see up there, they are still the same original doors from the time, but inside they have rebuilt and remodeled. And what's important to know is just behind that wall, there was a payphone, because they didn't have cell phones at the time. And since this is a public area, a lot of people came there to call. And who did they call? They called Sigge Cedergren. He was a drug dealer, and he lived 2 blocks up that street. And I have a story about that as well. But I'm not going to get ahead of myself. Let me just start by introducing myself then.
Sure.
So I'm Mattias Kressmark. I've been interested a long time in this murder, probably since I was a kid. I was 10 years old when it happened. It was a Saturday morning, and as kids, we wanted to watch cartoons that were on Saturdays. So when we turned on the TV, there were no cartoons, no shows at all, just sad music playing on the TV. That's how we got to know it. So normally I work for Microsoft. I do services around artificial intelligence and meetings. And I am the founder and the administrator of the Palme Murder Archive, Palmemordsarkivet. It's a place on the internet where we collect a lot of documentation around the murder. So people are helping out in a sort of a crowdsourcing way. You can go to this page and read from the investigation of this murder.
To get these documents, did you have to put in some sort of request, freedom of information request?
Yes, so you can ask the police to give you the documents. They will, but they will also block out any personal information and everything that shouldn't be in there. Right now we have around 30,000 pages in this archive about the murder. There are 22,430 different topics or subjects. They have interrogated probably over 10,000 people, and many of them many times. So the one that they have interrogated the most times is Ezine, the drug dealer. They interrogated him 43 times. They also kept track of 4,000 cars. 134 people have confessed to the murder, and 29 of them straight to the police, actually. But it probably wasn't them. And the tour we're going to do today, it's not very far. You can almost see the end of it over there. If we were just going to walk it, it's going to take us about 7 minutes.
Okay.
But we're going to stop at several locations, and we're going to talk about things. So what happened here then, the Grand Cinema? It was the 28th of February 1986, and it was a pay Friday. Everyone got paid that Friday. So a lot of people out and about. They were out partying. It was 5.4 degrees below zero. Not super cold, normal Swedish winter day. At the time, as we already said, they didn't have mobile phones. So anyone with a walkie-talkie was something very eye-catching, so people would notice that.
Mattias mentions walkie-talkies for good reason. Witnesses at the time reported seeing men with walkie-talkies in the area. They were seen along the route taken by Olof Palme and his wife. Near the actual murder site, there were also sightings of people with walkie-talkies. 10 years ago, on the 30th anniversary of the murder, Radio Sweden reported, "Another line of inquiry that is also still live is related to the many witnesses that have seen people using walkie-talkies near the crime scene on the night of the murder. There are about 80 such observations. There are also people who, independent of each other, have made observations at the same time. The identities of the walkie-talkie men have never been made public. In fact, it's not certain that the police ever discovered who they were. Their presence is certainly suspicious and could point to a professional operation of some kind."
Olof and Lisbeth Palme, they lived in Old Town. So they jumped on a train and they came here 47 minutes past 8. And you asked about the movie. Yeah, the movie was The Mozart Brothers. And it's a movie about two brothers doing something at the opera. And actually, Olof Palme was offered a role in this movie. So maybe that's why I also wanted to see it.
Do we know what that role would have been?
Yes, as the chief of the theater. But he said he couldn't do it because he didn't have time. He was trying to run the country. So 250 people sat on that same cinema room as him. And out of those, 247 are interrogated. So still there are 3 we haven't found, or they don't know who they were. And also some of those interrogations are completely censored. Yeah, so that's interesting. When they're done, they come out here and they talk about what they're going to do, because his son and the son's girlfriend, they were also at the same movie. But then his wife Lisbeth said she was tired, so she wanted to go home. And Olof says he's been sitting all day, so he wants to stretch his legs, so they decide to walk. But if they would have walked home, they would probably have gone that way. So up and to the right to hit Drottninggatan.
But instead they walked down this street.
Yes.
Which is called
Sveavägen. And then they crossed to the other side. So a lot of people also think this was some sort of meeting scenario. They had a meeting booked and they were going somewhere. But we have no solid evidence or solid proof of that.
Can I just ask, did he live up here?
Yes.
The gangster?
Yeah.
Was he what we would call a sort of mafia type person? Or?
Well, I don't think he was super bad, but he was selling drugs.
Okay. But he didn't have a history of violence or anything?
I don't think so. I think he was more the guy who assigned other people to do that dirty work for him. But the interesting thing is that he was interrogated 43 times, I said. So now we're going to walk in the same way that the couple Palme went after the cinema.
So this is the path they would have taken here?
Yes. So they stopped here, talked to their son and his girlfriend, and then they decided to part ways. And Olof and Lisbeth continued straight.
Could Olof Palme have been mistaken for someone else? You talk about drug dealers, and
yes,
there are sometimes revenge killings in the underworld, the drug world.
There is one theory that someone, or even Christer Pettersson, mistook him for just this Sigge Cedergren because they had the same coat, a big furry coat and a big Russian hat, a big fur hat.
Is there any credence to that theory that it's a case of mistaken identity?
I don't think so, no. Some say that Christer Pettersson used to stand up there at a murder scene, but I think that's only something that's been invented afterwards to make someone more important than they are. So, as said, the natural way would have been to take a right, either that street or this street.
Yeah, for Olof and his wife.
Yes.
They could have gone this way, past the church here.
Exactly. But instead, they would cross the street here, at this intersection. And we can stay here at
Henke's Grill.
This little grill, it was here also in 86.
Okay.
But at that time, someone called Lubisa worked here. So Lubisa, he sees Olof and Lisbeth, and he recognizes, I don't know if he recognizes him by face or just his big fur hat. But he sees them, and he also sees someone is following them. And later on, he's saying that someone was Christer Pettersson. But that's also a bit uncertain, of course. What we have more is, if you look up on that building, we have a lady who also sees them, and she sees the two, and she sees someone is following them over the street. Later on, she also hears the shots. And she was doing something inside her apartment, so they could sort of backtrack how long time it was between those two shots. And it is between 1 to 3 seconds. So it was fairly quick, the two shots were fired.
Do we know the first sighting of someone following the Prime Minister?
It would be this Ludisa who had Henke's Grill.
Okay.
It wasn't called Henke's Grill at the time. And let's go and cross the street where they cross the street.
Sure.
The Last Footsteps of Olof Palme, Part 2.
That big building you see, that's the Skandia building. You can see the big sign, Sveavägen 44. Over here, there were smaller shops. And one of the shops was Indian store, Sari. And Lisbeth wanted to take a look at that one. They're saying that's why they crossed the street. She wanted to check that store.
So they did some late night window shopping simply, as married couples do.
Yep.
So this is the Skandia building.
Yeah. Stig Engström, who worked in here, he had his office on that other corner, in towards the alley. He didn't see Sveavägen. So some people have been thinking, could he have gone to this side of the building to look and see the cinema and saw them come? But it's very unlikely.
Did he have a reason for being at work so late on a Friday night?
Yeah, he was going to go on vacation, and he said that he had some things he wanted to wrap up before going on winter holidays. Yeah. So that's why he was working late. And this house, Skandia House, it's quite interesting. It is a huge building, of course, and before it was actually called Thulehuset. So the insurance company before was called Thule, and it was led by a very interesting guy called Alvar Lindenkrona. Now, Alvar Lindenkrona, he led for 25 years the Stay Behind movement in Sweden.
Not a lot of people will know what that is.
Yeah, so Stay Behind, it was an organization that the Americans initiated if the Russians should come and attack, they should stay behind and make life hard for...
Small cells of resistance fighting.
Exactly. And I know that in Denmark, this is a known or a more known public thing. But if you ask Swede what stay behind is, they wouldn't even know it because it has been so secret. And since we haven't been part of NATO and we had a much more secret history of that. So it's first now that I think more and more information about stay behind, what it is and why it was here, but it's not as well documented as it is in Denmark or in Norway. Yeah, so he was the CEO of Thule, and he was also a leading figure in Stay Behind. So that's just maybe a weird coincidence, or could there be a connection?
I understand Stay Behind was fiercely anti-communist, and
correct.
Olof Palme was in many ways considered very left-wing.
When it comes to Olof Palme, he had a trip planned. I think it was 1 week or 2 weeks after he was killed. He had a trip planned to go to Moscow and discuss certain things. The agenda of that trip hasn't been released, so we don't know exactly what it was about, but probably it was about nuclear weapons and where they could place them and not place them. And Palme was strongly advocating Sweden as a nuclear-free zone and all of that. So, we're going to move on to that place. Over here, there was a cash machine, ATM. So some people were standing here getting money, and one of the guys was Anders Björkman, so he was the one closest to the murder. So he was somewhere here in between that ATM, and he came to the ATM and he sees the Palme couple. He also see a man coming up and he places his hand on Olof Palme's shoulder, and then 2 shots are fired.
Did Palme's wife say if the assassin spoke any words? Did he say anything?
He didn't say anything. So she didn't realize what happened. She thought it was someone playing with a firecracker or some car. So she just felt Olof falling, and he was shot through his spine. And they say when you do that, it's like... you don't fall forward, you don't, fall like you do in the movie. It's more like you just drop straight down. And that's also consistent with what he had. He had bruises on knees and his forehead. So he dropped his forehead into the concrete here.
So he died instantly?
Yes, so he was more or less dead when he hit the ground. But the people coming up trying to give him CPR and everything, of course they couldn't know, so they did their best. They said, he doesn't have a pulse, it's weak, now it's coming back, and they were talking about that. So one of the interesting things about Stig Engström, I've written an article about 15 things he saw here at the location after it happens. And that is one of the things, that they were checking the pulse of Palme, and he could tell that to people before that was known by media or anything. So if he was the murderer and he had run away, how could he know that they were here checking the pulse?
Doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense. And he could also say that a white taxi car came up and a guy was talking in his radio outside that, and a lot of different little details like that. When you put them all together, you see that he was here at the location after it happened.
Could they possibly have been heading for this underground?
Yeah, they could have been heading for this underground. But this entrance was locked. Of course, they couldn't know that. But maybe they wanted to check that shop, and then they came here. So, what's happening here is that he's shooting in this general direction. The police don't find those bullets. Later on, the first bullet, probably the one that gone through Olof Palme, was found there, behind that pillar. And also, there was a tree here, and that tree... and one of the branches cracked. So apparently the bullet hit the ground, bounced up, hit the branch of the tree, and ended up there. Right. And the one that gone through Lisbeth ended up on the other side.
So a bullet went through Lisbeth Palme as well?
No. She turned to see what was happening to him. And then a bullet touched her back.
But only 2 shots were fired?
Yes, 2 shots were fired. And it all happens so fast. So if you think about it, you heard the first shot, bam. Then people are looking around, where did it come from? And then bam, again. And then the killer, he just puts the gun away. So he probably had a holster. Because that type of weapon, I'm not a weapons expert, but I tried it. It's a huge, heavy weapon.
It wasn't a common weapon, was it? Or
it's very uncommon for assassinations. So it's a revolver, but it's very unusual. And also the ammo was very unusual because it was metal breaking ammo. So it had a tip that was extra hard. So if you had body protection on, it could penetrate that.
Okay, so this was planned.
Either it was planned or it was someone that just had that type of ammo at home. You can sort of use the same argument to say that it was a professional or it was an amateur. You can say it was an amateur because this isn't a great place to kill someone in the middle of town here. But you can say, oh, he was a professional because he did it and he got away and no one even saw his face. And the same thing with the choice of weapon. It was a dumb weapon, but I mean, it got the job done, right? So was it an amateur or was it a pro?
Hitmen have their favorite weapons.
Exactly. And those bullets, they were most likely fired with a long barrel. I don't know how long it is, but it's a very big gun.
The assassin had gone down this road here.
Yeah, so he ran in that direction.
Right.
There is another guy called Lars Jeffson, and he's just standing in that corner. He doesn't see the actual shot, but he hears the shot very well, of course.
Yep.
He sees someone falling, and then he hears someone started to run. But then he sees the murderer running past him and then up the stairs. You know, if he was the professional killer, he would be fit, military guy.
Of course, yeah.
So a lot of people, they like to run the stairs and time it, because then you can calculate.
Yeah.
I don't think we should do it, because I tried it and I almost passed out. It's a lot of stairs and it's steep.
I wouldn't mind walking up the stairs just to see where, because it wasn't at the top of the stairs here that the assassin that was seen for the last time.
Exactly. And also we're going to see the view the assassin could have seen from there. So now we're here.
Well, you have to be quite fit to run up those.
Yeah, you can feel it just walking.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So, Lars Jeppsson, he hears the shots, hears the footsteps, he sees the guy coming up, and the guy comes here. Then he turns around to see if he's followed or not, and then he disappears. So from here, theoretically, he could have run right, left, or straight.
Yeah.
And to the left, as you see, is the big church with a cemetery.
Yeah.
Good place to sort of disappear and hide. And down this way, you have some stairs going down to Kungsgatan. It's one of the busiest streets with a lot of restaurants and people, especially at that time of night. But what's going on here is that the street you see going into the left down there,
Yes.
a lady called Yvonne and partner, they're coming. And when they come out on the street, they see a man running this way.
If he came up here, the assassin, was there any thought that he may have had accomplices in the area? Or?
Yes, we're getting there.
Okay, I'm getting ahead of you.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, so it actually looked a bit like it does today. So there were cars there on that side, and the murderer were running on this way. So when Lars Jeppsson comes up, he meets Yvonne and Ahmed, and he asks, where did he run? Yeah. They're saying he ran that way. When Lars Jeppsson is running here, or he's down here searching, then yet another police car, a big police truck, drives here and just passes him and then goes down. So they don't stop to talk to him.
So the police were beginning to sort of turn up.
Yeah. So Yvonne and Ahmed, they've been to a club up on this street and they went this way.
Johannesgatan.
Yes. So if you see the green building there, that's an interesting building. Yeah. Because one of the police working in this police truck, he had a car that was parked in this general area, and he was renting an apartment right there in that one. So they came here, the whole crew with the big truck, for him to repark his car. So he was reparking his car. They shouldn't have been here. But then when they were driving this way up and then down towards Sergelstorg, the main square in Stockholm, then they get the alarm that something's happened. So that's why they were the first police truck on location. But they shouldn't have been here. Some people think that's suspicious. Why did they come here? And the guy renting that apartment, he had the apartment because he was a weapons dealer. So in that apartment, he had weapons and guns and everything. And after the murder, he also made some very strange deals selling bulletproof glass to the Swedish police, actually to Hans Holmér, who led the investigations of the murder of Palme. Also, they sold to Hans Holmér a machine gun mounted in a briefcase. That's not something the Swedish police normally use, let me tell you.
Now, the person who sold the guns, was he a policeman?
He was a policeman, yes.
With a sideline and weapons.
Exactly. Also documented neo-Nazi. So they have pictures of him standing at Brandenburger Tor, Heiling, and on different important places for Nazis.
So the trail goes cold here.
Yeah, I would say so.
We've been on the trail of the assassin.
Yeah.
But we've lost him down there.
Yeah.
Of course, tantalizing thought that he may have been friends with the...
with the police there.
We better not go there.
No. People have gone there before.
Okay.
Everything of this have been debated and discussed.
Well, listen, Mattias, this has been an absolutely fascinating walk. Tell me, how often do you do this? Do you have a website or a place where people can look you up?
Palmemordsarkivet,
Okay.
the Palme Murder Archive.se. So people can find me there, perhaps.
And if they email you through that website, they'll be able to get in contact with you.
You can include my email in this article. And,
Sure, thank you. Thank you.
Normally in Sweden, it's not so interesting for media to write about this anymore.
No.
It's a really cold case. Always around the anniversary date or whatever you can call it. It's nothing we celebrate, of course, but when it happens.
But you mark it.
Yeah. Then media is writing about it, and people are, writing articles and talking about it, remembering it. And really, it is an open wound on the Swedish society because it happened here and we have no clue.
And that wound will continue. And that creates a distrust of the government and of institutions of the state. Mattias, thank you so much. And good luck with the ongoing investigations.
Yeah.